He's been Captain Kirk and TJ Hooker, and he's shown us how lives are saved on Rescue 911. Now, William Shatner's own creation, Tekwar, is being made into a computer game. Shatner spoke to us about his creation along with Intercorp President Lee Rothschild.
I was at Liberty while a film I was working on, a Star Trek film that I was working on, had been struck by the Teamsters. It was several months had gone by and I couldn't do anything. And I started doodling around with a story idea. I essentially put a policeman in the future. I'd played policeman in series and knew a little bit about policeman life. I just lurched into putting it into the Star Trek future. But when Marvel Comics came to me to do a comic book of it, I decided to put the whole thing 50 years from now because I thought the storyboards from the comics books would be handy to have. So that started it being 50 years from now. I found out how to write the books as I wrote them. The first one was more rambling and diffused. And the literate media of the novel doesn't lend itself in film. Although I knew that, I would go even further now. As I was doing the movies of Tekwar, and when it was sold as a series, I realized because I had been reading and doing some research into CD-rom games, that this thing that I had invented would lend itself to a game. So I was sensitized to what we call ancillary rights in Hollywood of Tekwar. It was in the process of talking to Universal Studios, who are my partners in Tekwar, and seeking recommendations for who would do the Tekwar game, that Intercorp's name came up. And when we researched that, we found that Intercorp was the best company to handle the Tekwar game. I find myself coming up with ideas for games, wondering how we can do it in real time, I think is the expression, or live motion technique, and how we can get all that information into the computer and have somebody play it. Intercorp, Capstone, is the best game company to do Tekwar because they are the most inventive, and they have the head of the company who's a man with not only great enthusiasm, but he's willing to put money into his enthusiasm to go to the cutting edge. What I didn't understand, and have only now begun to realize, was the limitations of the technology of compressing that amount of information onto a CD-ROM disc. And then I became familiar with the compressions and the KPEG compressions from 4 to 100, maybe more. And all that is just around the corner. If the game player does well, the character of Bascom, in this case, would have to be one way. And if the game player has done not well, and somewhere in between, his attitude is also different. So that the writing for the character and the different attitudes the character would have in the same scene it's obvious the variations that are needed. Each one picks up a little and causes a further increase in sales of the previous books. When I went to make the movie of it, I kind of followed it a little more slavishly than I would now. I learned not to do that. The game now takes all that and makes a wonderful statement in bringing that world that I created in my mind to this screen and the world in which the game player can wander. When we had our conversations about the game, I said, here's what I would like to do. And all I had was fantasy. They, of course, had the nuts and bolts. And I was swept along with Lee Rothschild's enthusiasm and his people's ability to make that enthusiasm real. When the Pac-Man monster went off the screen, I didn't know what to do. I've been beginning research and having people familiar with the games lead me through the games. Not that I can play the games, but at least I want to see how the games work. What I theorized before that, and in evolving the Tekwar game, was that the principles of drama would apply in any entertaining media. The principles of identification, of tension, of anxiety, of building, of character, of story, of the milieu, all the elements of storytelling, especially in films, I theorized, would apply in gaming. Writing a game, that branching technique of writing a game, is like writing 3 screenplays. It's like writing a couple of novels or more. It is far, far more extensive than people realize. A good game it takes more work to do a good game than any other media. There's a degree in the performance and the writing that you try to tread that is both you, player, here's what you've done, and yet play a character, and yet play somebody who's having fun with the player. Reward the player for not killing. That was an integral part of
game design.
Game design. Yes, point and shoot if you have to, but don't shoot and use your mind if you can. I press that button, and the gun shoots bang, 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 and I'm spraying bullets around, no matter where it is. Because I don't know where the next figure is going to come out at. We want to interest kids in games, but games of the kind that isn't point and shoot. We want to challenge their minds for gaming. We want to take unique concepts, some of them science fiction concepts, that have an interesting philosophy behind the concept, and make a game out of it. Where we seem to be heading for, if I look at it, try and get an objective view, is more drama, more story, more involvement by the gamer into the story.